It is Friday. We are back with another live episode of the Empty Netters PUCKLINE News, brought to you by Snaps.
Look at this hat, dude.
Unbelievable.
Oh, are we gonna get you one of these? So it's this hat snaps, but your ball marker snaps to the back rim. Right
okay.
here. So you just got it all the time. You can get a Caps one. You can get this one says ice is ready for us. You can get they got a full NHL deal now. Pretty sick.
Pretty sick. As you can see, we're joined by TJ Oshie live from DC, maybe Minnesota.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
I don't know. I've been everywhere.
I wish that moment was live so much because Oshie literally forgot where he was for a moment.
Yeah, I get it. Hey, how was the golf tournament?
It was good. It was good. The boss lady, honestly, I could not believe how good she hit the ball.
God, that's so great, dude. That's so great.
Where was
she
her?
wasn't golf at all. She was hitting like 230 off the tee, like straight.
No, dude.
All the other wives were like, "Does she play golf?" I'm like, "No,
Literally
not at all."
God, dude, she missed her calling, dude.
It's probably that, or Lauren's just watching Osh like in the house doing this move.
Yeah,
she's just like imitating the form, dude. This is what
Every time I walk in the garage, I pull out her club, throw down like a flattened box. I gotta take a couple swings.
Dude, is she in the scramble? Is she hitting from the front tees?
Yeah. So
it's so valuable, dude. If you have a girl playing with you that hits from the front tees and can actually pop drives, you're like wedge in every time.
So cool format. It was a 3-couple alternate shot scramble. So all the guys tee off, all the girls do the approach.
Edge, chat is saying that our mics aren't on.
Hold on.
So we're gonna check that out, chat.
But you keep going, Osh.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. But yeah. So like the guys tee off on every odd number hole, the girls tee off on every even number hole, and then you literally just alternate all the way until the ball gets in the hole.
It's genius.
Yeah,
I actually love the format so much.
And it kept the teams around it like four hours, right? Instead of
you're coming
every time and chasing balls everywhere.
I love a scramble, dude. Dude, even when I'm out with my 3 buddies and everyone's like trying to keep their own score or whatever, if it's just like a summer afternoon, I'm like, let's just scramble, dude. Like, let's see if we can shoot 5 under at this course, and it'll be fun as hell, and we'll zip around, and it's awesome.
For sure.
We talked about this before we went live. Before we get into the Oilers game, we did want to get your take, a player's take on the Paul Maurice situation. So for you, and everyone in the chat, if you aren't aware, there was the interaction between Paul Maurice and Rod Brindamore. Ended up being the case that Paul doesn't like when coaches go through the handshake line after a series. Rod didn't agree. They had a little bit of a discussion. Osh, as a player, is that something that ever bothered you or ever even crossed your mind?
Honestly, it never bothered me, and I almost preferred it because in a playoff series, especially if it's someone that you're familiar with, the coach's mind and how they make adjustments to the team is, that's all you do. You're playing the same team every game. Your systems don't change, but you make little adjustments. And if you have a veteran team, yeah, sure, the players can kind of make some adjustments on the fly. But the whole day, from the day before to then, to the game before, to the current game, is all small adjustments by the coaches. And so a little bit, it's like a coach's kind of mind game, like what are we going to switch, what are they going to switch, and how do we counter that? And so I think it's a huge part of the series is how you play the game, how your coaches bring those little adjustments to you. So also there's so many coaches in the league that are so well respected. As a player, we never get to see it unless you're by chance walking in the hallway.
Wow, great point. Yeah.
Unless you're by chance walking in the hallway, going to the locker room, you would never. Sometimes it's like our previous coaches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I went, I don't know, a while without seeing like Barry Trotz. Like if we played them in the playoff series, I would love to go give him a big hug after, win or lose, and be like, "Hey man, I missed you a great series." But a lot of coaches you never get to meet. There's coaches I played with for 15 years and never met them. And so if you get to do that in a playoff series, it's part of the respect of the game. I think it's great. I don't care if it doesn't happen, but I think it's a cool part of the game.
I completely agree, and I think that was our take. Is like, there was a big uproar. Obviously, a lot of people hate the Panthers because when a team is buzzing, it's easy to hate them. but there was outrage about it online, which I thought outrage was a weird response. I totally understand being like, that's weird, but I think that's all it is it's weird. And I think it's funny from Maurice too, because like we were talking about, he's gone through handshakes before, and last season when they beat Boston in round 2, he had such a lovely interaction with Sway, and I was like, that was amazing. So I'm like,
great
part of me is like, Maurice, why don't you like this? This is like, you have good interactions with the guys that they appreciate. It's a strange take. Again, it doesn't bother me, but I just think it's a strange thing.
Oshie said before we recorded that, it was like, because Maurice had that one comment where he's like, there's 400 people on the ice. You know, there's guys in tracksuits. And maybe that's the answer where it's like, hey, dude, you and your assistant coach go out. Yeah. And that's it. You know, we don't need everybody, I guess. But I'm so with you that it's like, it's not, I think it's nice, like, it's cool from your POV, Osh, to be like, I never get to see those coaches. But I actually think it hits in reverse too, where how often does Paul Maurice get to see Jeremy Swayman, and he wants to go, hey dude, that was actually a really good series, and I'm glad I got to say that to you. You know, those opportunities too.
And you also, I mean, in the handshake line, you almost kind of, people's character comes out a little bit. So everyone in hockey is generally a great human being, I think. But in the when you shake hands, like win or lose, like if they win and they're just like, hey, good series. You know, you're like, I don't know, maybe like we just battle our ass off, like extremely hard. Like we cross-checked each other as hard as we can.
Yeah,
and the fact that you can't just be like, hey man, great series, great battle, you know, like maybe that says something about you, or vice versa. And you see that in a coach too, how you shake their hand, you know. Usually it's something easy, like, hey, love your game, great series, best of luck next year, we'll see you next year, whatever it is. But
dude, we saw that in round 1 with you guys, with Willie and Anderson. Like those two were trying to kill each other all series.
Absolutely. But how great is that? Also, I don't know. He's won a lot of series here in a row. Maybe he's like, I'm done with. I just want to go back and start prepping the next series. I don't know.
Yeah, and so
you win that much. Maybe you're like, I'm sick of it.
Get the fuck out of here. I gotta get ready.
You're not going to answer this. I already know. But is there anybody that you in the handshake line that you were like that wasn't that chill after a playoff series?
Yeah, actually, in the bubble, it wasn't in the bubble. I actually kind of lost my cool a little bit. But in the bubble, I think it was a mistake by me. But there was like 30 seconds left, and we're about to lose to who we played? Islanders. We're about to lose to the Islanders.
Oh yeah.
And like game's over, right? Maybe there might be less. Might have been like 15 seconds left. Like we're lost. The game's over. We're gonna lose. And someone on their bench like made just like a terrible cocky comment, like I don't even know what it was. Like enjoy your golf game or something like that.
Yeah.
From the bench, right? And like you never in a million years say that like when the series is already over. Yeah, maybe like as the series is going, you want to get in someone's head, cool. And I turned around to the bench, and I just happened to lock eyes with Barzal, and I was like, are you kidding me? So we get in the line, and I shake his hand. I'm like, hey, basically, what the hell was that? And I kind of like grab his arm like a little tighter. Yeah. And I was like, that's so Bush League, and he's just like, what are you talking about? And so I think it clearly wasn't him, but I was like, you know what I'm talking about? I literally shoved him in the line.
Dude, two hands?
It was not like let's drop our gloves here, but like that was that was bullshit.
We need to find Osh's brain. He's like, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, I pictured you, Osh, like finger in his face, being like, you know what you fucking said. And he's like, I actually don't.
I mean, I was pretty upset, right? Because we had to go freaking to the bubble, and and we did all this stuff to go there. I wasn't allowed to go to Tahoe because you couldn't travel.
Oh shit!
And it just everything sucked. And I know him, and he's a great guy. And so I was like, how could you do that? You tricked me. But clearly, he was like. But it clearly wasn't him. Like it clearly was someone else. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was my mistake. But that was the only time that. But yeah, there's I don't have a specific example. But there's some guys that like they won't even say anything. They'll just shake your hand and go by, which is fine. Whatever.
Yeah, that is so funny.
Okay, and then to pivot a little bit here, as a guy who won a Stanley Cup, we are what, 5 days? 5 days from game one.
Yeah.
What are these guys thinking right now? Like, what's going through their head? They just won the conference finals. They've got the cup prep. They've got media day, all this bullshit coming up. They got to get tickets for everyone they've ever met in their life. What's going through their minds?
So the advantage for these two teams is they've already done it, right? And they did it last year. So except for the new guys on the team that have never been in the situation, everything's going to be routine. They're going to know what to expect. There's a lot of media. There's a lot of ticket requests. There's a lot of travel stuff. Usually the families aren't allowed to stay in our hotel. So then it's the team services guys. Like, this is probably the most fun and the hardest time of the year, because they're needing to get people new hotels. They need to get all this other stuff. It's a little it's a lot, but the first couple days it feels good because you feel like accomplished. You're there, a lot of attention, and then after two days, you're like, I just want to get to the game, And it doesn't stop once you get into town, because then then all the media is at the rink. Everyone travels rink to rink, so it's a little hectic. That's nice that they have 5 days. Like, that's plenty of time to rest, and these guys are clear. Like, their bodies are shot. I know they look fast and everything online or on the games, but on TV. But I mean, your legs are like, your body's just like everything, and emotion too, right? So much emotion that goes through the series. So there's probably gonna be some quality time for some rest here.
Absolutely. Did you guys you started in Vegas, right? Like, game one was in Vegas.
Yeah, they were waiting for us.
Yeah. I've always kind of thought it's nice to start huge series on the road, because it's a little bit, you don't have the crowd behind you, but there's almost a little less pressure if you lose that game, because you're like, whatever, like, we just need to split. Yeah. Do you agree with that, or would you rather just start game one?
No, absolutely. And it's almost like, because when you start on the road, you're like, let's just get one.
Yeah.
And when you start at home, you're like, we have to win too.
Yeah.
So true.
And so when you're starting on the road, it's almost easier. It's like, all right, go in there. There's less ticket requests. You get in the hotel together soon, so that bonding from like the series before immediately starts. At home, you go home. You have your kids. You have whatever. You have to drive into the rink. You're not on the bus. So I mean, road games in the playoffs are phenomenal.
A lot of Mario Kart.
Never gotten more sleep in my life.
God, that's amazing.
The summer camp element of road games in the show is so funny. It's just being like, dude, I sleep well. I get to hang with boys. It's fantastic. Absolutely love it.
New couple road days.
Dude, we were last time you were on the show earlier this week, we were talking about McDavid and just everything he does and how unbelievable it is. But I wanted to talk to both of you. I feel like for years now, it's been like 3 years. I feel like Barkov has been on that, like, he's so underrated, people don't appreciate it, and then slowly people have learned about it. I think he is somehow still underrated. Because, like, this guy just feels like when you look at everything he does, from his play on the ice to his leadership, I think he's a top 5 guy in the league. And that pass he threw to Verhaeghe for the game-winning goal in their elimination game was just, to me, it was like, yep, that is a perfect example of how fucking good this guy is. And I feel like you get to play him a little bit more than you play a guy like McDavid being in the same conference.
Yep.
How fucking good is this guy?
It's hard to describe. The closest thing that I get to is like prime time Kopitar. Because I was in the West, and so I was there when they were winning all their cups. I was losing to them in playoffs, and they would go on to win. And he was just so well-rounded and solid that it's almost like you forget sometimes when someone's not the absolute best at one thing, like, Ovi with his scoring goals. Like, when it's someone that's just good at everything, you don't realize how good they are, because they're not in the top category of one thing, right? Yeah. You look at an assist guys, like, man, this guy's unbelievable. So they get all the attention because they're at the top of the stat sheet and whatever it is. But when you got someone that's really good on faceoffs, really solid in D zone, never gets knocked off the puck, good goal scorer, got hands, skater, massive, like all of it.
He's there.
He's got a full package, and so he's so good. That pass when he's behind the net and it's like it's an area pass, right? The guy's behind the net when he's passing, so he's like reading the play and knowing or hoping that it was Verhaeghe or
Verhaeghe.
That you hope that he's on the same wavelength and he's thinking the same thing, and clearly he did and tucked it upstairs. So.
Yeah, absolutely incredible,
dude. And the Kopi comp it's like, to me, it's like Bergeron, Kopi, Barkov. Like we had three, obviously all of them playing at the same time for a little bit, but it's just like, Jesus Christ, those guys are so insane, and Barkov is just mental.
Yeah, absolutely. Osh, we know you got to run, so I just want to leave you with this. A lot of people in the chat saying that you looked incredible on ESPN, which we agree. So can you just tell everyone a little bit about that experience?
Thank you. Yeah, it was wild. I hope you couldn't tell, but my leg was shaking so bad and we're on stools, right? And so your legs are up, just like a high, whatever, desk chair, and there's like a place to put your feet. And they want you like high up. And so your top of my like quads were like on the desk, and my leg was shaking so bad that it was shaking my whole body. So I had to dangle my left leg off of the chair because then it could just shake on its own down in the corner. I can't tell you, like that's the most nervous I've been since my first round of Tahoe in Tahoe, American Century. 100%. Those are maybe the only 2 times in my life that I've been that nervous. So it was an amazing experience. All the guys on the show made me feel really comfortable, even though I was really nervous. And the producers were great. ESPN. Like it was, completely first class. And it was fun. It was super fun.
Hell yeah, man. I think people actually did notice. It was, for a little while, it was trending on Twitter that people thought there was an earthquake going through the studio.
I absolutely don't doubt it. And honestly, it's so much. I have so much more respect for those guys because you have an earpiece in, and they're like talking to you while you're talking. So if you can imagine having one ear plugged, how weird that sounds anyways. So plug one ear and talk. Sounds funny. And then you got to like look at people. I was worried about like where my hands were. My buddy made fun of me for having a pencil instead of a pen. And and then they're like counting down like, all right, give the PK in 3, 2, 1 or whatever it is. Like that's so hard to do, and it looks like everyone makes it look easy on TV. So it was a cool experience, man. So fun, a lot harder than I thought. ESPN's phenomenal.
It's true. The first time we did something for NHL Network, we had those earpieces in, and you kind of forget about it. And I remember like saying something, like kicking at someone, and then something came in my head, and I was like, did I become schizophrenic overnight? Like, what the fuck is going on? And then you're like, oh yeah, it's someone telling me to do something. It's multitasking. It's hard, but you crushed it, man. It was awesome. Yeah,
it's so hard. My very first one, I was breaking down a play, and I didn't know. It was the first time I put the earpiece on. And so I didn't know that, like, I'm listening to like the play in my ear while I'm talking.
Oh, damn.
And I was still talking, and the play ended, so my ear went silent. And I was like, I kind of like stopped, and I was like, am I cut off? Like, did they? I don't know.
You shut down.
I don't know. And then like PK and Mesh was just like staring at me, like, yeah, what? And I'm like, I don't even know what I said. I think I said close out the series. That's how I ended it, and it was game 4. They couldn't close out the series. It was impossible.
They're like, what are you talking about, dude? God, that's so funny. Well, dude, everybody loved you. I don't know if you can see the chat on yours, but they're going crazy, dude. Mandy, OG Mandy says his takes are crazy good, and he's articulate and entertaining. So that's high praise.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's awesome, dude. And bro, you were dressing, man.
Yeah,
great. I was not expecting that. That was incredible.
So I picked that suit up at Suit Supply like the day before. And I've never been like a nice suit guy. Like, a lot of guys like to, have like the checks, all this stuff.
Was that suit off the rack?
Yeah, they just had to cut the pants a little shorter. That was off the rack.
It's incredible. It looks
Unbelievable.
amazing.
That looked tailored. It looked specific. Like that.
Oh, no.
That was a good eye.
And the shirt still had the fold lines in it, and I'm trying to. You ever try to get the fold lines out with an iron, and like you just can't? I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So I'm like, I tried to stay buttoned up. I'm like, as long as you can't see this line here, then I'm good. My hair, I did my hair like 3-4 hours before, and so that was, I don't know. It was almost better. There was a little chaotic for me because then once I settled down, it was just.
First time to think about it, it gets in your head. You know, you just get out there.
Kind of get in there. Luckily, that was the only one though, because it got chopped off yesterday, but without my permission.
Thank God that you went on ESPN before the chop, because we needed the flow on TV.
Yeah.
Dude, we don't want to hold you up anymore if you've got to run, but thanks for popping on. We'll see you again soon. And enjoy your Friday, brother.
Appreciate it, boys. Have a good weekend, chat. Sorry I haven't been in the first periods. Miss you. Maybe game 1?
Yeah, maybe game 1. I like that.
Definitely game 1.
I'm planning on game 1. I'll be there.
Awesome.
Beauty.
All right, see you, Osh.
All right, guys. See you guys.
Wow.
I don't know how to do this.
Unbelievable stuff.
Unbelievable.
That was
stuff.
actually some great content.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some really good insights from the handshake lines. That was amazing.
It always is. I'm so glad you asked about the handshake line. That was my biggest thing. Is like I felt like I didn't want to sewer Maurice because I don't care. Like I said, my take on Twitter was like I don't care. I don't get why people are getting so worked up about it. It's not that big of a deal. If you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it, and I totally understand it. But there's no reason to get pissed.
Yep.
And I think I was like, I think where he's trying to come from is a level of respect of like, this is for the players. But my whole take was like, I think the players want that. Like, it's like, man, before we washed out, I always loved it if I lost or won a game, going through the handshake lane when a coach was like, hey, great fucking game.
Dude, you know my great horse.
I was like,
that was one of that. I think about that moment all the time.
I sure did. I sure did. That's amazing. Do we want to bring Wish in?
Oh, yeah, we do.
All right, we've got our boy Wish popping in right now. There he is. Look at that.
Hey, let me get straight here. I'm wearing my Cleveland Pierogies hat. The Cleveland Pierogies, the Cleveland Monsters of the AHL became the Cleveland Pierogies and had alternate jerseys and everything. It was earlier this year for Cleveland Pierogies Hockey Club night. It was Pucks and Pierogies night. They had sent me the hat while I was on the road for the playoffs, and I wanted to give them a shout out by wearing my lid. The problem is the logo is supposed to be like a pierogiized C, but I don't think that they really thought it through because it does look like a cheesy poof. So I mean that's fine though. It's the thought that counts. Anyone who puts love, as a Ukrainian, anyone who puts love on pierogies, I'm going to give love back, even if it looks like a cheesy poof.
It's a sick hat. Dude, I don't think I've ever seen you in a hat. That was the biggest reaction for me. It's like, it looks great. You look great in it. It's fantastic.
So I normally rock the big updo. Yep. Slather a bunch of gel in there, a little bit of color here and there. But when I'm doing when I'm doing stuff in the home studio, man, sometimes I'll pop on a chapeau, especially when I'm doing stuff with Arda, because he's usually wearing some sort of Mandalorian hat, and then I'm like I could rock a hat too, so it's all good.
I want you to do it in the full Mandalorian mask.
Yeah, he's got the gear. I don't have the cosplay stuff. I'll tell you this, I have cosplayed before at Comic-Con here in New York. I don't know if there's any Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild fans, but I once dressed up like a Keurig from that game. I had a leaf mask, and it was really cool. That was the only time I ever cosplayed for Comic-Con.
That's so sick. We did it because we did the Comic-Con down here. We've done a few rips down there, but I don't know if we dressed up like we kind of dipped the toe in the cosplay. Like I'll wear like a shirt or something, but I've never gone full costume down at Comic-Con.
No, God.
When I was in high school and the first Men in Black movie came out, me and my best friend dressed like Men in Black to go to the movie theater.
To see the movie.
Because we were very cool, and we said this would definitely be a way to get laid, is to dress like the Men in Black
Yeah.
for the movie.
And then make the girl forget about it immediately. This
Right.
flash her after it, you're golden. That's incredible stuff, dude. Let's see, dude. How you guys? Did you guys pick the West series? Like, how do you guys divide up who gets which series?
Oh, like who's covering it?
Yeah.
I think. Oh wait, hey Siri, turn the music off. Turn the music off, Siri. I think it was about to play a Limp Bizkit song. I'm not quite sure how that
I
happened.
wish
But
that happened so badly. That would have been awesome.
so she should start talking. So I think there's some geography involved because Ryan Clark from ESPN, the hockey writer Ryan Clark, not the football yelling at RG3 guy, lives out in Seattle. And then Kristen Shilton's in Canada, so her travel back and forth to Edmonton was pretty easy. And I said, I want to be on the East. Like, we didn't cover the East as a network. Like, we broadcast the West. We have our pick of which conference to cover, which is maybe what your question was.
Yeah.
But I was like, I love a challenge, man. I love being a one-man gang in coverage where I'm lugging around a tripod and a camera myself and setting it up and doing hits on TV. And I love being able to kind of like dig into a series that is clearly the B series of the final.
Right.
I mean, everybody's got the attention on Dallas and Edmonton. So I really enjoyed covering it. I wrote some good stuff. I got another piece on Brad Marchand coming out on Monday. They were both really easy teams to cover with a lot of really good personalities on both teams.
That's awesome, dude. And I love the image of you just huffing around with the tripod, making it work anyway. That's amazing. If everybody go on ESPN and watch the piece that's come out from the game last night already. I have a couple questions for you because this is one thing that I've been saying for so long. This objectively had to be the certainly deepest group of forwards, top 9 forwards I've ever seen on a playoff team in the Dallas Stars. And in your article, you said arguably the biggest collection of talent Dallas has had over these last 3 Western Conference Finals appearances, and they got rinsed. So what happened?
I mean, according to Pete DeBoer, it's the best team he's had on paper, but not the best team he's had, which I think is him saying that for whatever reason they failed the chemistry test in the postseason. He also kind of like made a comment about how long the previous series had gone, and I'm like, my dude, it was just a scant 2 rounds ago that you were praising your team for overcoming the manpower losses of Jason Robertson and Miro Heiskanen in winning in 7 games against Colorado. Like, you can't have it both ways. Would you think it should have been a sweep without those guys against Colorado? Come on, man. It's a great question. I think the Rantanen line not doing what it did in the previous 2 rounds was a real problem for them. That was such an engine for them at the end of the Colorado series and the beginning of the Winnipeg series. To have Rantanen going ice cold when he did was really a problem. And then, I think that, again, the simplest way to explain what happened against Edmonton is, of the 4 teams in the conference finals, the Oilers were the least bothered team. Dallas did nothing physically to bother them. They did nothing on the scoreboard to bother them. I mean, Edmonton leaves that game 1 loss being like, all right, probably not going to have 3 straight power plays and 3 straight power play goals again in this series. It probably ain't going to happen, so we're good. And then, they never scored the first goal in any of these games to really put any pressure on Edmonton and have them exhale a little bit. And then obviously in game 5, like 2 goals on 2 shots and they're cooked. So I don't think they did anything to really shift the momentum or even make Edmonton all that concerned in the series. And Dallas is usually pretty good at that. I mean, they can play physically. They can put goals on the board. They can put you in a position where you're coming back in a game in the third. But instead, they played right into the Oilers' hands. And it was a pretty, I mean, I don't want to say pathetic. That's probably too harsh of a word, but extremely underwhelming showing for Dallas.
I couldn't agree more. I was saying yesterday, we were doing a fun little live show game, and I went scorched earth on Vegas because, like, Vegas was, they beat them 2 years ago in the playoffs. They were a great team. I think a lot of us expected a lot from Vegas, and I thought that it was the most piss-poor performance ever from them. And then this was arguably worse. So go for it and say pathetic if you want, because I completely agree. It's like anyone could see, in my opinion, that first game, in that third period, great job, Dallas. Way to storm back. That's amazing. But you had to know that wasn't a complete flip of the ice. Oh, yeah, no, we just started playing so great and we figured out Edmonton. It's like we went 3 for 3 on the power play. That's not going to happen every game.
No.
So the way they came out in game 2, just completely flat, looked flaccid, they looked scared. I was like, well, that was a really bad game 2. And then also, you're losing at home.
Yeah.
And then it was just like the same story. Game 3, game 4, and then the start of game 5 is just as bad as it gets. So I was just like, I mean, this is just a brutal showing. And so many Oilers fans were jumping all over us, being like, can you just give the Oilers credit for playing a great game? And I'm like, listen, we have been, but it's also ignorant to not act like these teams are playing poorly, because they are.
Yeah, we would say Dallas didn't play to their potential. I think they would agree with that.
They didn't, and their potential is to have as strong or more, even better of a supporting cast than Edmonton did. And when you look at the players that stepped up for Edmonton in the series, whether it's Kapanen with the empty netters or Janmark last night, and they're losing guys in the lineup and guys are moving up and contributing. Like, I mean, up until game 5, Wyatt Johnston was completely invisible. Yep. They got nothing out of other guys like Marchment and Ben. Like, it was just a really disappointing showing for a team that definitely had the depth to try to win the cup this year. But to give the Oilers their flowers, man, one, they did prevent Dallas from doing the things that might have rattled Skinner, whether it was getting to him near the crease or, more importantly, getting rush attempts. That guy his save percentage is quite below average when he's facing rush attempts, and Dallas didn't have hardly any of them in the series. And then the second thing that they did extremely well was, and this kind of speaks to are the Oilers now playing championship level defense? Man, like 4 shots on goal in the third in each of the last 3 games is pretty fucking impressive. Like that's like 95 Devils shit right there, and that's like not what you expect from Edmonton. And we can talk about Dallas and them freaking out offensively and not really having an answer, but there's something to be said for the way that Edmonton is closing out these games.
And 4 shots in the third period is impressive anytime, but I would even argue game 4 kind of and 5 literally, your life is on the line if you're the Stars in that third period. And to get 4 shots in that scenario, when you're like, hey boys, everything's in the net, we need one, we're chasing the game, that's even more crazy to me.
Right. But I mean, luckily we now know it's all Ottinger's fault. So like, we don't have to worry about blaming anybody else but the goalie.
Bro, let's talk about that. That has to be. Dan said we were live during the first period, so I was like, it took me so out of the moment because I was so flabbergasted. That was the most psychotic panic move I've ever seen in my life. And wish if they had been like flubbed wrist shots from the blue line, no screen that he let in, like, okay, maybe. It was literally a power play where you broke down and Corey Perry's nude in front of the net, and then a full clear on breakaway.
Yeah.
That's what you give up to start game 5, and you yank your all-star goalie.
Yeah, a breakaway where it looked like all the Stars controllers had been unplugged. Like they were just in a coma and let Matthias Janmark get in back of him for a clear shot at Ottinger. And then the other one, obviously, is I like Maverick Bourque as a player, but I mean, that's what happens when you stick a rookie into a game 5 in the conference final, which is what Pete did. And then he takes the high sticking penalty a minute 47 into the game to put McDavid on the power play, hoping and praying you're not going to get down again in the game. And guess what? So, I mean, like, it was a panic move. If he really wanted to give a jolt to the system of this team, it probably needed to be something in the lineup before the game, like scratching Jamie Benn or some shit. Like, there's ways to, like, wake them up if you're looking to wake them up that don't involve you pulling a demonstrably better goaltender than your backup out of the game after 2 goals. The post game was just embarrassing, man. Like, I keep on revisiting what I heard last night, and just the idea of him claiming he's not putting it on Ottinger, but it clearly is putting it on Ottinger that they keep falling behind in these games, and then doing something that I don't think is recoverable if you're Pete DeBoer, which is the idea that your franchise goalie can't beat one team in your conference, which is what he said about Ottinger. He said he had enough of a sample size to see that he couldn't beat the Oilers, and I'm like, pretty good chance you're going to see him next year, Pete. Like, pretty good chance you're going to see the Oilers again. And you just went on the record to say your goalie can't beat him. Like, how do you recover from that? Can you imagine if, like, the coach of the Rangers at some point was just like, yeah, it's good, but Lundqvist will never beat Carolina or some shit. Like, what is you can't do that with your franchise goalie. You just can't. It's not motivation. It's the admission of defeat.
Especially at a position that is so mental, right? Like, they have all the players to do that to. And I will never know, but I was like, I almost thought Otter said something in that timeout because he goes back to the goal. Like, he comes in there, they do their timeout, and then he starts skating back to the goal as if, like, I'm playing still. And then he gets yanked. Doesn't even shake DeSmith's hand. He's so pissed to the point that I was like, did he say something in the timeout being like, we're dead, boys? And then DeBoer's like, get the fuck out if that's how you think. That's the only excuse. Otherwise, it was a temper tantrum for no fucking reason.
Wish, I'm so glad you brought up your tweet because I saw that before we started recording and I was like, I want to talk about this so badly because that is such a good point. Like you have just told the enemy your biggest mental weakness, which and you're right. Like you are going to see them again most likely. And I was thinking this is it for DeBoer in Dallas after that yank. And then after those comments, I'm like, you've got to be shitting me. If I'm a player on that team and you're asking me to go out there and stand in front of Otter, who is an amazing goaltender, after saying that shit, like I would have something to say. If you're Jamie Benn and you don't, before next season, go up to DeBoer and be like, that was fucking insane. Like you have to address that because that is not what the team needs. It's not what Otter needs. There were a lot of overreactions on Twitter of people being like, "I would demand a trade if I were Otter." And the sleeping on it, I'm kind of like, listen, it's not that crazy because that's just that lack of respect and confidence in your all-star level goalie. It just felt like such a petulant comment. It's like, oh, you got dicked down by the Oilers again, and now you're an adult man, you're a coach in the NHL, and you're essentially blame it on your goalie. That's crazy.
They might have won that game if he stayed in. Like, there was I
gotta tell somebody put in my feed Ottinger for Swayman, and I'm like, oh, that is like a Stephen A. Smith first take level take right there. That is an incredible take on that idea.
I saw that a few times too. It was
incredible.
Just an easy swap for swap.
It's dumb. Pete was talking like a guy that thought maybe he was going to be fired last night. I think he didn't go scorched earth, but he was saying some things that were really incendiary about this group. Ben was asked about pulling Ottinger, and he kind of just said it's not my call and didn't really elaborate beyond that. And I don't think he was particularly happy about it. But the idea that you are down 2-0 in a game, and the best response is to make you start worrying about your goaltending even more than you probably are, which is what happens when you replace Jake Ottinger with Casey DeSmith, is insane. It's counterintuitive to what you need to be doing at that point in the game, which is concentrating completely on the offensive end. But now all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, the guy that we depend on isn't even in the game anymore. So now maybe we got to like not jump the puck and leave the zone. Maybe we got to take care of our defensive end a little bit more than we even want to.
If that's a game 5 and it's 2-2 in the series, maybe I could hear this because you're like, I don't know, just we needed to spark that game or something. But facing elimination, pulling out the best player on your team is so wild.
Yeah.
And Wish, how about Ray having to sit right next to him like Otter's? And he's like, Jake Ottinger's been pulled and he's upset. And
that was so savage. I was like, Jesus Christ, move the guy. Like,
right? It's just like, he gave up 2 goals on 2 shots, but Jake, not your fault. Just want to let you know in case you're an earshot of this, not your fault. Anyways, it's just like, I felt so bad for everybody involved.
That was a good impression, dude.
That was a fantastic
I got some good impressions.
That was a good impression.
Mostly they are unleashed in the press box to my friends in the media, but you get my Ray. You get my Ray on this one.
You also put in your article, Wish, that, and you just brought it up, that what the Stars do with DeBoer will be fascinating. And none of us here are rooting for anyone to ever lose their jobs. But from my POV, I can't even believe he got home last night still employed. Like, I literally cannot fathom that wasn't done immediately.
Well, the question is that where do you turn? I mean, that's part of the math in dismissing your coach.
Yep.
Is where do you turn? Who's the next guy? Like, is Gerard Gallant the guy? Is Jay Woodcroft the guy? I mean, the Seattle Kraken just had to hire Lane Lambert as your head coach. I mean, like, that's where we are right now in the coaching carousel. It's not to say that there isn't a better solution. It's not to say that there isn't guys out there that maybe are circulating around that could make an improvement on what they already have. Like a Jeff Halpern or somebody like that, just to throw a name out there that's got a little bit of history with Dallas. But like, that's the trick about any of this stuff. It's what the conversation was about Brindamore as well, which is that you are making so much money in the regular season being successful. The Stars have the best points percentage of any team that Pete's coached in the regular season. You're always going to penultimate round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Which is a nice bit of revenue for your owner and everybody. I mean, that's
true.
You can't ignore that. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a business. But when you don't get past that point, when you keep bumping up against that ceiling, and when you could make the argument that you're getting, sort of a downgrade each year, you're heading there to that round. I mean, there's reasons to believe that it's time to move on. He's got one more year left on his contract, as far as we know. But again, boys, the real issue is, who are you hiring? Who is the guy you're bringing in? But
I got to take.
I want to hear the
Torts.
take.
Don't say Torts.
If
No,
you
it's not,
say,
it's not,
okay,
it's
I
not,
was
it's
like,
not.
don't even fucking
it's
say
not.
Torts. All right, what is it?
It's this, dude. So DeBoer is in Vegas, and they can't win the cup. He gets canned. Cassidy comes in. Immediate cup. Cassidy's also about to get canned in Vegas, I think, because he's gone too far. They're not hearing him in the room anymore. So Dallas does the same thing. They go, we'll just fire DeBoer for Cassidy again, win an immediate cup. Cassidy will be fired in Dallas 3 years from now, but they will finally get over the hump.
Wow.
Interesting take.
I mean, it would probably take someone being fired that hasn't been fired yet.
Agreed.
And to go there. But as of right now, I don't think I mean Pete's maybe squeezed as much he's going to squeeze out of this team, but I don't know if there's another coach that I really trust with getting the same level of results that he's gotten with that team. He's a really good coach. He just burns out in places.
He does.
Burns his players out, and it never seems to end all that well for him. But there's no arguing with the success that he has, and that's a lot of money you're leaving on the table where all of a sudden you're losing in the first round of the playoffs instead of making it all the way to the conference final.
Yeah.
It's Friday. I want to get a little weird with you guys.
No.
I was thinking about this. We got trades in the NHL. Why don't we consider the possibility of coaching trades?
Okay.
We're looking at a team in the West who has lost 3 straight Western Conference Finals, who can't get over the hump. We got a team in the East who's got a similar issue. Okay. What if we do a DeBoer, Rod the Bod swap?
Wow.
Just trade them, see if they can get over the hump, little new blood, get some new guys. I don't know. Maybe.
I love it.
Just give it a shot. But
Logan Stankoven running through the streets of Raleigh right now screaming, "No!"
Like, stop. No. Shut up, Dan. Shut up, Dan.
I just escaped it.
That
Don't
is
bring
so
it back
funny,
on
dude.
me.
But it is. I like what you say about the element of who's out there, who are you going to go get. But part of me is like, listen, not being reactionary. You have to fire him, and I hate this part of all of our jobs. Is like talking about guys getting fired. That sucks. It's someone's livelihood. It's their job. You don't want to talk about someone getting fired. But realistically, when you look at the Stars, when you look at those comments, I just don't see a world where you don't move on. And it's similar in the Boston situation. It looks like we might get a Marco Sturm hiring. I want more of that, more fresh blood. Like, let's get some younger guys in the league who
Call Mike Modano, dude. Where's he at?
Seriously, it's like, but honestly, it's like there are guys who are coaching in the AHL level. There are guys coaching overseas who have great track records, who are good coaches. I understand that if you're a team like Dallas, you're in a compete now, right? Like, this team thinks that they could have won a cup or at least fought for a cup. You don't necessarily want to hire a super inexperienced coach where you're like, they don't know how to coach in the playoffs. That's a disaster. I get that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, what are you going to do? Just hire another one of these guys? Like, are you going to hire a Woodcroft who couldn't get it done in the playoffs?
Yeah, true.
So it's just like new blood. Fuck it. Like, give me a break. Give it a shot. I don't know. It's like you see, Bednar comes in and does really well. Carbs is doing really well. I want more of these young guys who are getting first shots because I think it's good for the league.
Yeah, I mean, and you just named 2 guys that had success at the AHL level that then became, NHL head coaches. I think in Carb's case, he was also an assistant before he became the head coach of the Capitals as well, which I don't think Bednar was before he was hired. So there's a ton of different ways to look at it and a ton of different directions you can go. But ultimately, there's always going to be hesitation because, like I said, I mean, if you plug and play with DeBoer next year, you're making the playoffs. You're probably winning at least a round, and it's hard to give that up.
Yeah, correct.
Even if you don't necessarily. And the interesting counter argument that DeBoer made last night. I don't know if you guys heard this, but he's talking about how it takes teams a while to break through, and he brought up specifically the Washington Capitals, who lost in the second round for 3 consecutive seasons before finally getting past Pittsburgh and winning the Cup. And it was interesting that he bought that up, because if we were to believe that he has one more year left on his contract, he's like, don't fire your boy. I'm Barry Trotz, baby. I'm going to figure this thing out in year 4. That was a really, really interesting. I mean, Pete's a smart guy, and I don't think that was unintentional, that he's just like bringing up the Capitals that needed 4 years under the same coach to figure it out.
Yeah, he was doing a little of both, eh? To your point, like he was lobbying for himself for that 4th year, but also just in case he gets fired, was kind of going scorched earth on some people that
I know.
He's like, I'm playing both.
All right, he's like, I would love to coach these guys next year, but also fuck these guys. Like, it's a bit of a dichotomy. But the thing is, though, if we're talking about Pete coming back and like under what conditions could he come back? First of all, he's going to have to mend a fence with Ottinger. But, if you look at their roster, I mean, again, Jamie Benn's probably coming back. Jim Nill has talked about the idea that he's going to be a star for life. They've got some other UFAs. Like, they do have the opportunity to change the mix a little bit to make it feel different than it was this year and maybe improve the team. And is that enough to kind of like change the vibe going into next year? Or is the vibe just, we're just going to keep on making the same mistake over and over again?
Yeah, that's the fear. I do want to ask you one question, something I brought up on the pod before, and we can move on from the coaching situation. I think that there is an untalked about element of lack of adaptability from certain coaches, especially some of these older coaches. We've mentioned before, when Moore was with Vegas and then left to Dallas, that next year, Vegas played Dallas in the playoffs and beat them. Right. And there are guys on that Vegas team who has said to us, we got into playoffs and we just looked at what Dallas was doing and we were like, this is just DeBoer's system. We played this last year. We know how to beat it. They adjusted and beat it. And I think that we've seen a few times in the playoffs here. It's like, I mean, I look at a guy like Knobloch who comes in with that Oilers team last year, does what he does the second half of the season, then takes them to Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. And so many times through last playoffs, I feel like we saw the Oilers make not only in series, but in-game adjustments to their competition that got them through to the final. And I look at Carolina with Rod, I look at DeBoer and Dallas, kind of as far as their coaching style, and Rod, you could say that in his lifestyle, stubborn coaches who are kind of unwilling to make changes to their systems and adapt. And we're seeing, it's like, yes, when you have a really talented roster like Dallas clearly has, like Carolina clearly has, you're going to win a few series. But then when you get into those, third round Stanley Cup Final and it's every team is so good, you need to make adjustments. And I don't feel like we see that from DeBoer. Yeah. So to your point, I'm like, do you guys just want to lose in the Western Conference Final every year? Because if so, congrats, keep ripping it. You're going to lose in 5. Enjoy your golf in the beginning of June. But at some point, it's like you have to make a change if you want to take that next step.
That's the truth. The guy that I always think about when it comes to that is John Cooper, who I think is, for my money, the best coach in the league. There was a time when the Lightning couldn't break through the conference final themselves. They would keep getting there and losing. And at some point, and I think it might have been after the disaster in the first round against Columbus, Coop's just like, we're going to dedicate our entire regular season to learning how to defend in the playoffs. And it may not necessarily manifest in being a very good regular season points-wise. We know we're still going to make the playoffs. But we are going to learn how to play like you need to play in the playoffs. And it paid off with back-to-back cups, albeit, pandemic cups, as the Panthers probably point out if they win again. But cups nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Last one I wanted to ask you about was you came on, it must have been summer. I can't remember exactly when, but maybe it was when we were doing our division previews. And we were all talking about this and agreeing about this, but you had a quote that was something like, last June, the Oilers got the best 2 weeks of Stuart Skinner's career. And it still was one game short of a championship. Do we think, is he even better now, or is that still a massive like, oh fuck, I don't know that we're good enough to beat Florida in 7?
I struggle with this because I didn't think he was good in game 1 of the final.
Yep.
And I didn't think that he should have gotten the lion's share of the credit for game 2. Dallas missed 40 shots in that game.
That's so crazy.
And they had more giveaways in the first 2 periods of game 2 than they had in any full game in the playoffs up until that point. They played like shit. But I got to give him all the flowers for 3 and 4. Like that,
Yeah.
Skinner played really, really well in those games.
Yep.
What worries me is that I don't think that he was as bothered as he's going to be against the Cats. Like, there's no Sam Bennett buzzing the crease in the same way there will be against Florida, or guys crashing the net.
Yep.
Or even like, I mean, I have to probably check the numbers, but I think the Panthers are just going to have more high danger chances than Dallas did, insofar as like you think about what Barkov is able to do around the crease and for the way that Verhaeghe scores goals. Like I just think that the offensive attack on Skinner is going to be different. But again, the bar is not set for him to be games 3 and 4. The bar for him is set as don't screw it up.
Yep.
That's so real.
Right. So like, I mean, he's a modern day Chris Osgood in some ways, right? So like, he's just got to go in there and not screw it up. And I think that he's probably reached the point in his career where he's not going to screw it up. I mean, I'd be really, really surprised if we saw Pickard again in these playoffs. I mean, I think,
same. Yep.
yeah, I think Skinner's just not going to screw it up. Does it mean he's going to be the point of winning or losing in the series? Probably not. But I don't. If the question is, was last year the best 2 years of his life playing goal? I mean, maybe, but he's probably in the midst of the same kind of run now.
Yeah, agreed.
But I still credit Dallas's failure and Edmonton's defense more than I credit the goaltender, which isn't fair to that guy, but it's just how I see it.
No, and it's real. And I will say this too, in terms of what they need from him. The 3 series in a row, slightly unfairly in round 2 against Vegas, but 3 series in a row, you have all the narrative when the predictions are coming in are other team, Oilers' opponent has the huge advantage in goal. Darcy Kemper is a Vezina finalist. Aiden Hill, say what you want. I think he's good, but everyone was saying Vegas has the goalie edge, and then Jake Ottinger, obviously, everyone's like huge goalie advantage. And then those goalies, for whatever reasons, didn't play well in any of those series. And now you're going against Bob, and I just don't think you're going to get a bad Bob. Like, the Oilers could win this series. I just don't think they're going to win this series because Bob is getting yanked from games and getting lit up.
You'll get like one game of bad Bob,
Right.
and that'll be the game that makes his numbers for the finals look terrible.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the time, he'll make every save they need him to make and be the best penalty killer on the team.
Yep.
And then in the third period of a 1-goal game, you're just like, man, that guy just stole it.
Yep.
It's usually the way it works with him. He's never got the numbers that really blow you away. And I've had many arguments with those in the goalie analytics community about how good he really is.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, I covered that Carolina-Florida series. I'd want that guy in my crease. He's real good when you need him to be.
And that's Game 7 last year, right? Like, Skinner didn't play horribly in Game 7
He
last
played
year.
well.
He wants
Played
that
very
one
well.
Sam Reinert shot back, and Bob was like, I'll get you every save.
Yeah.
I'd be really surprised if at the end of the series we're talking about like the goaltending. I think at the end of the series we'll be talking about the special teams, and I think we'll be talking about the depth on both of these teams. In particular, if you are matching Bennett and Barkov against Leon and Connor, well, now that Marchand, Lusterine, and Lundell line might become the most important line in the series. Like, that line has produced insanely well for Florida. And when I look down the Edmonton lineup, I'm impressed. They're missing some people. Like Connor Brown, hopefully is going to be okay and can come back. But I don't love their bottom 6 as much as I love Florida's bottom 6, and that's kind of maybe a point of demarcation in the series.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny? I think that's been the case every series with this Edmonton team. I saw someone say the other, I was like, here we go, rematch. It was always these two teams, blah, blah, blah. And someone was like, yeah, and both teams are probably better than they were last year.
They are.
And I think they are. But when I look at Edmonton, I'm like, how? Like, I've been saying this every series. Like, yes, they have maybe the two best players in the world. But I do look at their depth, and frankly, on paper and by the statistics of the season, their depth isn't good. But they've been insane all playoffs. Like, it has been the difference. We've said it a million times now. Guys on the Kings were like, we lost that series because we lost the depth battle, and that is unacceptable. And they're right. But, fortunately for Edmonton, these guys have stepped up, and it's unbelievable to see. To me, the biggest difference is, save for like a pretty good 1 or 2, I don't think that they've faced that great of defense in LA, Vegas, and Dallas. Like I know Dallas looks at their D as a strength, but like you had Miro coming off an injury, and then frankly, I think after their top 3, it drops off a lot.
Yeah.
Florida has 4 guys who could be a 1 on more than half the teams in the NHL.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's like I think that's going to be a huge factor.
Who's
but
the 4th guy? Mikola?
yes, and again, Mikola is a cloud. I was talking with someone.
He's playing like I mean I know what you're saying. I think he's playing
Yes.
like it in
Yes.
the playoffs, but I don't quite know if he's on that level yet. But again, to your point though, you throw him and Seth Jones together on the second pairing. That's better than anything they had on the team that won last year.
Exactly.
Seth Jones is on their second pairing.
And he's been playing great.
He's a pretty good player.
I mean, Seth Jones, he's the classic, like, get him in a situation where he's not the guy and he's like, oh, I'll be the best player on the team.
Yep.
And like, that's what he's doing. It's unbelievable.
Dude,
But,
that is so right. I had someone on the Panthers tell me that. Like, he was miscast in Chicago. Like, his best hockey came when he was sharing the spotlight or maybe even, in the spotlight of Werenski in Columbus.
Exactly.
And so he comes to Florida and they're like, dude, we're good. We have Ekblad and Forsling as our top pairing. You don't have to do shit except your job as the second pairing guy. And I think he's done extremely well with that mindset. Now, things will get interesting if Ekblad leaves to free agency and all of a sudden Jones is the number 1 again. We'll see what happens there. But for right now, I mean, he's perfectly cast.
Yeah.
I'm getting ahead of myself, but I will say this is what I have my eyes on. At the All-Star game in Florida, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever the fuck that was, we were with a bunch of the guys at Elbow Room, and Seth Jones was outside, and there was a big line, and they were like, can you get him in? Not that like I had pull, but I was just with the group. So we were like, yeah, he's with us. And Seth Jones said, I don't like this place, it's too crowded. And if they win the cup, he better take his ass into Elbow Room. That better change immediately, dude. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, again, like if that ever happens, man, Seth, if you're listening, there's a cigar bar right down the road from Elbow Room.
That's true.
I like to haunt that place. Get yourself a whiskey, get yourself a smoke. They got lots of TVs. I'm personally not an Elbow Room man myself. I've been there a couple times. I've experienced it. I like a bit more of a chill atmosphere. I think.
Okay, so
Seth,
you and Jonesy,
me and you, baby. We're good at in Fort Lauderdale together.
There you go.
Incredible. Okay, Wish, what you got the Marchand piece? When does that come out? Tell everyone else what you got coming up.
Monday for Marchand, Tuesday for my pick column, and then Tuesday also for the final probably edition of Conn Smythe Watch, which. Where for those who don't know, the gimmick is that I ask all the writers who probably will be voting on the award what their current ballots are, their top 3. We do the same thing for the NHL awards during the season. I was both heartened and scared when someone in the betting community told me that when these articles come out, they move the lines, which is like
that's actually hilarious, dude.
Unlimited power.
You're affecting Vegas.
Yeah, right. So, but it's always fascinating to see. I've gotten a bunch of the ballots in so far. And it's interesting to see the mindset of some of the people that are going to be voting on this thing. It's not as cut and dry as you'd imagine.
Wow.
Connor's the favorite, I assume?
I haven't tabulated it yet, but he's obviously on a bunch of them. But I mean, there's also a lot of Barkov love, a lot of Bob love.
A lot of Stu love.
I want some Stu love, dude.
Get Stu in there.
Stu love does not exist, I don't think. And the reason why is because we do it right in hockey, which is it's an MVP award for the totality of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's hard to square. Maybe if he has an incredible final, he can climb back into it, but it's hard to square a guy who got yanked and sat winning the MVP for his team. But
right.
It's a really interesting mix of players, and I think the top 3 will be a little bit different than what the current lines are.
Yeah. Stu's going to have a shutout in game 1, and you're all going to be eating your words.
He's a future right now.
And then I'm in Edmonton on Tuesday for Media Day. It's gonna be a zoo, and I spent a good 90 minutes last night booking my travel out for the next few weeks.
Oh, dude, good for you.
We're about to do that right after we.
You got to do it early, especially. I normally I'm a last minute guy, but when it comes to Edmonton and Florida, I learned the hard way last year that you got to lock in those flights.
Yeah.
Those flights go away real quick, and all of a sudden you're on a 2-hop skipper between Edmonton, Minneapolis, Salt Lake City, and then off to Florida. I'm just like, I'm cooked.
There's only one flight from LA to Edmonton, and it's flown by Harrison Ford, so we've got to get on it pretty quick.
There are times last year where I'm like, in order to get to Fort Lauderdale on time, I'm gonna have to be on a plane with a bunch of sheep and cages in order to
Flying
get
in
there
the cargo bay.
Yeah,
True, dude. It's so true.
a tandem skydive with Tom Cruise over the
Yeah.
Everglades is how I'm getting into the game.
That actually sounds sick. I would do that.
Yeah.
That sounds sick too. I mean, he is. He's the literal.
God,
he's
that's
the manifestation of destiny, from what I
Yeah,
understand. So.
truly. All right, Wish, you're the best. Thank you for hopping on, and we'll see you in a few
soon.
days. Yeah,
All right, boys. Thanks, everybody.
great stuff,
See you,
buddy.
Wish. Absolutely incredible stuff today, man. I want to run through some quick hitters with you.
Yes,
before
please,
we go.
please.
And I'll just rapid fire.
But just
really
real quick, huge shout out to Wish, guys. If you in the chat, if you're not following Greg Wyshynski on Twitter, IG, everything, reading his articles, make sure to do so. He's one of the best in the biz.
Yeah.
Truly,
Oh my
he's
God.
unbelievable human.
So just a hilarious start to that hockey game. To take a penalty, Wish talked about, but to take a penalty and then just go down in 2 minutes, and then to give up a full ice breakaway in the first 7 minutes of a at-home Game 5 elimination game. Hilarious start.
Dude, hilarious. And I do want to say this. It's obvious, like Maverick Bork is obviously not trying to high stick anyone there.
Yep.
But if you're Dallas and you have had the starts to literally every game in this series, literally every single one, and your fans are bitching about calls, your coach is bitching about calls, you've just got to start that game and make sure you don't take a stupid penalty.
Yeah.
And again, Maverick Bork, amazing player, but like that is a flailing one-handed stick that you're trying to up over it around a guy. Like, you can't be doing that, pal. So it's an absolute nightmare start. Then, yeah, giving up a breakaway. I don't even know what to say. You give up another breakaway to McDavid later in the game.
that one is like just
And,
outrageous. Dude.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but like that is a message for Florida, who has given up a lot of odd man rushes
Yeah.
with stupid pinches, bad passes. You will die against
Oh
this
my
team
God.
if you do that. But I was dogging Dallas hard. We were playing bingo last night, and I was dogging them. I was like, this is a mercy rule, dude, end it. But like I did with Carolina, I want to give them a few stick taps for the fight. You could have laid down immediately. But you tried to fight, you kept getting it to one goal, and then you immediately gave up another goal. Yep. I can't imagine what Dallas fans were feeling watching that disastrous game.
It got scary because the Oilers are the executioners, as we know.
Yeah.
We know that they have killed their opponent the first chance they've gotten. Every round.
Every round.
Chance, the first chance they get to eliminate a team, every round this playoffs, they have killed them. They are the executioners. We all know this. And then last night, they also became the emergency response team.
Yep.
So now they're the executioners and the emergency response team, and that is going to be very hard to beat. And shout out to Knobloch, too, right? Because you said it earlier.
He's unbelievable.
That dude, I think it's 6th ever to go to the Cup your first 2 years as a head coach, first since Scotty Bowman.
Yeah.
So, like, they are absolutely buzzing right now, which is incredible. But, Dan, you had mentioned DeBoer. We were talking about it with Wish. He's so right about you know what you're getting, but listen to this, dude. He has been to 6 of the last 8 Western Conference Finals, if you go all the way back. 3 straight with Dallas, missed playoffs with Vegas. 2 straight with Vegas, missed playoffs with Sharks, went with Sharks. He's 10-24 in those games over the last 8 years in the Western Conference Finals. And there are some bad losses in there, dude. The Sharks to that 2019 Blues team.
Awful.
Vegas to Montreal.
Awful.
And then Dallas, he got rinsed by Vegas with Dallas, and then gets rinsed by Dallas. Or excuse me, I flipped that. But you know what I'm saying. He got crushed by Dallas with Vegas, then crushed by Vegas with Dallas. He can't do this much longer.
No, it's,
and then
you're fired.
survive.
Dude. You're fired. Like, you lose. You get nothing.
Good day.
And I mean it when I say I hate talking about coaches and talking about their jobs. It is a person's livelihood. But I am telling you right now, like, you're fired, dude. Like, this is, if you're Jim Nill and you don't fire this man literally tomorrow, and I don't give a fuck who's available. Hire me. Hire me to coach this team. But you have to make a move here.
It's weird. Hockey's weird because I don't know who is to blame when your star forwards go so cold. Because it's hard for me to go, it's completely the coach on not making adjustments. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, hey, Dutchie, score a goal.
Yeah.
Him and Granny had a horrible series. You know, like they couldn't even. It felt like they couldn't stick handle. They couldn't pass. They were whipping stuff.
I mean, I feel like you got to add. I don't mean to dog on the old boys, but like if you're going to mention Grant, I think Granny was actually buzzing several times.
Yep.
But if you're going to say that, like Sags and Ben,
nothing.
Sags, Ben, Dutchy in that series, like those were your old dogs,
Yep.
like your depth dogs who
Wyatt Johnson,
who did some but he's a stud. I'm talking about your old dogs who are like those guys need to step up, and they completely went to sleep.
Yep,
Disaster.
Robo got hot too late. And I commend him for getting hot and doing anything.
Yeah.
But he just got hot too late. Rantanen, dude, I have a theory for you on Rantanen. I think that the Canes getting killed ended any hope of the revenge tour narrative, and it sucked the life out of Rantanen.
Yeah,
He was like, if the Canes were winning, Rantanen would still be scoring because he's like, I want to play them too. But when the Canes died, the Canes killed Rantanen. The Canes sucked the life out of Rantanen.
They killed any momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
He had no reason to continue.
He had no reason to stay hot, dude. So, like, I think that's fucking crazy.
I like that take.
And Dan, Dallas this playoff, 7-0 when they gave up 2 goals or less, 2-9 when they gave up 3 goals or more. And I'm not saying they didn't score a lot of goals in the games they gave up 2 or less, but you had the biggest depth, firepower, offensive lineup in NHL history, and you couldn't win a fucking game if you gave up more than 3 goals.
I know.
Like, that's fucking insane, dude.
I want to just get into the final matchup for a couple minutes here before we close out. We're obviously well beyond an hour here. I think this Florida team is so good. I think this Edmonton team has been playing so well. I said it last night. Like it was always these two teams. I can't believe we ever thought it was going to be anything different. Like we're so dumb for thinking it was. Both teams are just playing. I'm like, how could either of these teams lose? I'm obviously on the Panthers bandwagon.
Yep.
But I do look at Edmonton, and I look at how calm Connor feels. They do have, Florida last year was like, we went last year and we lost. We've learned some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Edmonton has that factor now too. And I think that's a bit rattling if you're Florida. Like I know a lot of Florida fans are very cocky. They're not cocky. They're very confident. They're pretty unbothered by this matchup. But I'll tell you what, man, every single round this year, Edmonton gets in and the other team is unbothered. They're like, fucking Edmonton, they've got 2 players. Fuck this team.
Yeah.
We're going to get in Stu Skinner's grill. Skinner has a shutout in like every fucking series. And I'm like, dude, you lose. You eventually just lose to this team. So I think that this series, if you are a confident Florida fan, I think you are in for a very rude awakening. And I'm not saying you're going to lose, but I'm saying like, I think this is going to be a fucking battle.
Yep, we will do our full prediction on the pod for Tuesday morning. But McDavid is so good. You're right. He got his 100th assist, second fastest to 100th playoff assist. Gretzky did it in 70 games, which is fucking hilarious. McDavid did it in 90. The next closest is 125, and he's been really picking it up. He's still not quite scoring at the rate, but he's on that trajectory of. I think Wish actually tweeted it. Maybe you said that he could win Conn Smythe and lose again.
I know, it'd be so funny.
He's on that trajectory.
Like legitimately, that would be so
again.
funny.
This is the second time in this series, Dan, that we saw McDavid score a late second period goal right when Dallas got it to 1 to push it back to 2 that completely deaded the game again.
Well, that was what I was about to say. Connor doesn't need to score. He's never been a scorer. He needs to score back-breaking goals,
Yes,
and that's
dude,
what he's
he's
doing.
so good, bro.
So, like, that's it. I don't give a fuck if he's not scoring all the time. All he needs to do is score the goal that kills you, and that's what he's doing. So Connor is peaking. Connor is at peak Connor,
He is.
and it's about to be the Stanley Cup final.
He
So
is.
that is another thing for Florida that's like, that's bad. That's very bad for you.
Did Edmonton fans in the chat tell me, and you might remember, did he always do the Flying J mouth guard thing coming out? Because I swear that was a Matthew Tkachuk thing.
Well, Matthew chews on it. Connor has always had it hanging.
He's always had the Flying J out. Okay, because I feel like him and Draisaitl doing that now. Everybody's doing it. I actually think if you don't do it, you're not good.
I think you should all just either wear a mouth guard or don't wear a mouth guard.
That's interesting.
Like, it's
I like
pretty
that.
simple.
I like that. And then you said it. He had a great quote after that was like, "We feel calm. This isn't a big deal to us at all." I loved that, and I loved this too, Dan. And I know that I'm just gassing up Stu because I love him, but this, I'm glad they won a game where he saw a few go by him. Because they'd only won if he gives up 0 or 1.
Yeah.
And if he gives up more, it's like, well, we lose. I'm actually glad that he was like, I didn't play that great. I gave up 3 goals on 17 shots, and the boys had my back. So I actually thought that was great for my boy, dude. My boy Stu, the stash. Fear the stash, dude. Otherwise, man, it's God. We talked about Otter enough. Last thing for you. I'm actually really glad that Freddie or Marshy will win a cup. I'm really glad that the Bruins shipped out everybody.
That's nice for Bruins fans. Like, no matter what, all those trades, one of them is going to get a cup. So that's nice.
That makes me very happy.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, amazing shit from the chat, guys. Thanks for bearing with us with the mic stuff. Edge, you're a hero for getting that worked out. Peep the shirt on CP. Netters Bear, beautiful stuff. Like we said, Snaps,
baby.
New sponsor of the live, unbelievable stuff. You can get all this information. We have Snaps on our bio and all that stuff. Check out our merch on the screen right now. We've got the Lake House crew. And then, Oilers fans, Cats fans, we've got those amazing shirts. We dropped the new Rat Pack shirt for you Cats fans. Make sure you scoop one of those. Everything's in the link in our bio, emptynetters.shop. Go there, check it out. Have a phenomenal weekend, folks. I think we'll be back for the live on Monday.
I think so, yeah.
And then, we're getting it going here. We're going to be hitting the road. We're going to be buzzing around for the final. So make sure to follow us on everything, and we will see you soon.
Have an awesome weekend, everybody. Thanks to Osh. Thanks to Wish. Have a great weekend. Skate hard.